Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Westervelt, and I am the head of our Green Proofs practice here at EnergyWeb. Today, I'd like to offer you an overview of the why, what, and how of Green Proofs, why it exists, the challenges it addresses, what it does to create greater transparency for sustainability initiatives, and how some of the secret sauce behind the scenes that makes Green Proofs unique and special. Green Proofs exists to help companies meet business objectives associated with a few global trends that we're seeing around sustainability. The first trend is the emergence of more stringent environmental reporting requirements in several jurisdictions. These will drive an acceleration of decarbonization efforts in relevant geographies. The main example here is the introduction of the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, or CSRD. Beginning this year, the CSRD will require all public companies in the EU, as well as many private companies and companies with a European footprint, to report annually on a range of sustainability indicators. For most companies, this will include reporting on emissions, emissions reductions targets, progress against those targets, and the strategies and methods used in pursuing reductions. Another trend that's impacting the sustainability landscape is customer interest in procuring verifiably sustainable goods and services. Individuals and corporations continue to have an appetite for green products. However, they're increasingly savvy when it comes to greenwashing, and we see a growing demand for data and evidence to back up sustainability claims. In other words, customers want to see the receipts on a company's or a product's environmental claims before they make purchasing decisions. So we know that moving forward, any company wishing to differentiate itself or its products as green needs to be positioned to explain and prove those claims to its customers. So enabling companies to operate in a sustainable manner and prove it is increasingly important. However, sustainability initiatives continue to be labor intensive, costly, and opaque, and companies are still facing challenges in bringing differentiated green products to market, in procuring the green goods and services that they need to build and launch those products, tracking and measuring progress against goals over time, and then providing the receipts, giving customers the granular data they need to verify environmental and sustainability claims. Green Proofs is a comprehensive software solution that supports companies in overcoming those challenges and creating greater impact with sustainability initiatives. There are two main business applications for Green Proofs, which I will now describe. The first business application of Green Proofs is helping consortia of companies design and launch product registries to collectively scale markets for emerging green commodity types, such as biofuels and hydrogen. Launching a Green Proofs registry enables transparent, scalable, and credible tracking and booking claim schemes, as well as the secure booking, exchanging, and retirement of digital certificates representing commodities and their attributes. One example of this business application is the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Certificate, or SAFC registry, a platform that helps scale markets for sustainable aviation fuel around the world. The SAFC registry was designed, developed, and launched in partnership with RMI and the Environmental Defense Fund, or EDF, in December 2023 in order to connect corporate aviation customers with low-carbon aviation services, driving demand for sustainable aviation fuel and reducing overall sector emissions. The SAFC registry supports a book and claim market where the environmental attributes of sustainable aviation fuel, in other words, the characteristics of the fuel that make it green, are decoupled from the fuel itself and traded in the form of certificates. This is similar to how renewable energy markets work. Because solar and wind facilities can't always be built in places where they can physically supply renewable electricity to interested customers, when that electricity is generated, a certificate representing its greenness is created and traded or sold either independently or alongside the electricity itself. These renewable electricity certificates allow any buyer anywhere to purchase renewable electricity. The sustainable aviation fuel industry faces a similar challenge in that supply currently occurs at a relatively small number of production facilities around the world. And as you can imagine, it typically doesn't make sense to transport a shipment of SAF to another location just to then load it onto a new plane and burn it on a flight. So without a book and claim approach, SAF industry growth is always going to be limited by geographic constraints, and it can't scale efficiently. The SAFC registry helps the industry overcome this challenge by facilitating the creation, transfer, and retirement of certificates that represent the use of sustainable aviation fuel on commercial flights. This enables companies looking to reduce their emissions to not only credibly claim the use of SAF in transporting their goods and their people, but to also support a new green commodity market that has a huge decarbonization potential. This diagram illustrates the actors in the system and the actions that take place inside the registry. On the left, you can see the production and sale of SAF, which happens outside the registry. Once SAF is produced, a certificate that represents its sustainability attributes is created within the SAF registry as the property of the fuel provider. The fuel provider then contracts with air transport and logistics service providers to sell the SAF, the sustainable aviation fuel. Once the sale occurs, the relevant certificates are transferred to the fuel provider's customers. Those customers can then sell certificates onward to their own customers. For example, an airline sells certificates to a corporate customer whose executives use that airline for business trips. Those corporations can then retire the certificates and export data about them from the system into their own climate disclosure reports. We've been very excited to see the success of the SAFC registry so far. Currently, we have nearly 50 users on the platform, and in the last year of operation, we've abated about 128,000 tons of CO2, which you could compare to taking about almost 30,000 cars driven in the US off the road for a year. There are numerous other types of green commodities that Greenproof's registries can also support. A few examples include maritime shipping. So in December, together with our partners RMI and the Maersk McKinney Moeller Center for Zero Carbon Shipping, we unveiled Catalyst, a new book and claim platform to help customers access low carbon shipping services. We'll have a dedicated deep dive video on Catalyst available shortly for you to learn more about it, or you can click on the QR code here for an overview. The second is hard to abate sectors. We see opportunities for Greenproofs to support decarbonization in sectors like green steel and cement markets, which represent about 15% of global emissions. And then lastly, carbon dioxide removal or CDR certificates are another promising use case domain for us. The second business application that I'd like to highlight is how Greenproofs helps companies buy and sell low carbon services and commodities. In addition to supporting consortia of new companies and getting registries off the ground, Greenproofs, of course, also directly benefits companies that are seeking to acquire low carbon commodities and use them in offering green products and services to their customers. An excellent example of this is EnergyWeb's Greenproofs for Bitcoin platform. Greenproofs for Bitcoin is a solution that brings transparency and consistent metrics to the discussion around Bitcoin mining's climate impacts. It exists to spotlight the contributions of climate-conscious miners to grid decarbonization and the growth of clean energy markets, and to help organizations with Bitcoin exposure, like funds and payment processors, better align their activities with Bitcoin to their sustainability goals. Greenproofs for Bitcoin works as a certification system. Miners apply for certification, providing data about their operations to an auditor. The auditor then reviews the certification application and generates a set of sustainability scores. If those scores meet the threshold for certification, the miner is issued a set of self-sovereign credentials that she owns and controls. Those credentials can then be shared at the miner's discretion to demonstrate its sustainability commitments to interested counterparties. Recently, we collaborated with PayPal's blockchain research group and DMG Blockchain on an initiative that extends Greenproofs for Bitcoin to directly incentivize climate-aligned Bitcoin mining. The goals of this initiative are to reward climate-aligned miners with Bitcoin in a trust-independent manner and increase the likelihood of routing on-chain transactions to climate-aligned miners. These goals are met via a solution that identifies miners using low emissions energy sources, preferentially routes on-chain transactions to those miners, and then rewards those miners using a one-of-n multi-sig script. We are testing the solution now, and we'll keep the EnergyWeb community informed about what happens next. A few emerging use cases in this application category, that is helping companies source verifiably low carbon goods and services, are shown here. One such opportunity is low carbon computing. So, helping companies with a cloud approach to AI or to other IT services distribute their computing load dynamically based on the carbon intensity of the energy sources available at their various data centers. This would enable an organization, for example, to push computing load to a facility during hours of the day when that facility is being powered primarily by solar or other low carbon power sources, and then push load to another facility when the energy mix at that second facility is more sustainable. Another is digital product passports, using green proofs technology to manage the life cycle of electric vehicle batteries, for example. In this use case, information about the product is stored and updated across a network of various participants, including manufacturers, suppliers, distributors, consumers, regulators, without relying on a central entity, which makes it resistant to censorship and single points of failure. Implementing digital product passports can help enterprises drive innovation in electric mobility, enable more circular economy practices, and satisfy demand for EV batteries that are produced in a more sustainable way. Lastly, I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about one of the things that makes Greenproof special, part of the secret sauce, as we refer to it. This differentiator is our use of specialized worker node network technology to provide additional transparency and credibility to Greenproof's platforms and the claims that they support. Worker node networks are distributed computing networks that securely execute sensitive business operations. In Greenproofs, worker node networks create cryptographic proof that environmental claims obey relevant rules and standards. Worker nodes ingest data, then execute business logic and compare the outcomes with the network. Then, when the worker node network agrees on an outcome, the consensus is logged on the Energy WebEx blockchain. Greenproof's worker node networks execute the same logic for business operations, such as certificate issuance, transfer, and retirement, as the platform does. Then they compare their results to platform operations, and outcomes are logged on the Energy WebEx blockchain as an audit trail for stakeholders, making environmental claims more transparent and more credible. To illustrate how worker node networks work, I'll give you an example from the SAFC registry. First, an event in the platform occurs based on system logic. For instance, the issuance of a SAF certificate, which happens when a defined set of prerequisites is satisfied. Worker node networks then execute the same system logic and compare results. If the results are the same and the outcome matches the in-platform event, the nodes document this consensus on the Energy WebEx blockchain. Stakeholders can then access this record to validate that the system is always following its own rules, providing the platform with an additional layer of transparency and accountability. Thank you for joining me today for this introduction to the why, what, and how of Greenproofs. We would love to connect with you to go further into Greenproofs and discuss how it can support your sustainability and business objectives. So please feel free to reach out to us for more information. We hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.